What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. We finally have the onsong Performance Fish and Drifts R33.4 back in the shed to get it ready for the CQ Drift competition, which is happening on the 28th of May at Bunarabi. So it has been a crazy month for us. It's been really difficult, hard to deal with, a lot of things. We still don't have a dyno back, and that has been the number one thing. So this thing after Matsuri, the amount of tuning we did on track, it sort of got to a point where it was at least usable, drivable. He could compete in it. And we have continuously had setbacks with getting our dyno back to the point where I wasn't super confident until we definitely had a consignment note to say that it was on the way back to even start on getting the hot side sorted. Because if it came down to it and we didn't get the dyno back, he was going to have to compete with it the way it is. So today is the 16th of May. So 2 weeks from this weekend coming, or 1 week, sorry, 2 weeks from the weekend just gone. From this weekend coming, we've got 1 week until competition. And Brad's got the car booked in, back in Yeppoon for a new windscreen. Sorry, Brad. And an alignment and a few other things before competition time. So he really needs to be able to pick the car up this weekend. And we are, fingers crossed, gonna get our dyno back on Wednesday, which means that basically I've got to call it. It's either got to be compete as it is, or we go with the new hot side and we bust ass and work nights, and hopefully our dyno's back on Wednesday and it's back operating on Thursday, and between Friday and Saturday we can get this thing tuned so that he can get it on Sunday and take it back. So it's going to be a mammoth job. It's really sucked how much, doesn't seem to matter how much we try and prepare with this car, it seems to always come down to being a rush job. Doesn't matter what we do, and it's doing my head in because I really just want some time to sit in the car on the dyno and just nut it all out perfectly and get the thing back to the way it should be. But anyway, that's annoying. So we've got an array of things to go in the car. The exhaust manifold's going to come off. We're going to get all of that crappy wrapping off it. Maybe fix the flange. We'll investigate the exhaust leak it's got, fix all that. We've got a new turbo to go on this thing. We're going to make a new dump to suit the new turbo. We've got an array of new sensors that we're going to put into this thing to take advantage of the Motec's great features. We're going to remake all of the charge piping to suit and make a new intake so that he gets some nice cold air intake on this thing. So as well as that, we've got a IACV to add to the car this time, which to try and sort out the overheating issues we were having at idle at Matsuri. So a few things to sort out. So originally, our deal with Pulsar Turbo System sponsoring us the turbo and everything else, we did originally want to do some back-to-backs between having the Garrett that's on the car now and the Pulsar that is going on the car. So we really wanted the dyno back to be able to do that. Unfortunately, it's just not going to happen. We don't have the time. It just can't happen. You know, we do have results that we know from when I had the Haltech in it with the Garrett, which we're just going to have to go off those as far as our back-to-back figures go. So we've still got those. You know, in the new setup, it's going to be new ECU, so it's not exactly back-to-back. But the other thing is that we've got a Gen 1 Garrett GT versus a Gen 2 Pulsar GDX. There's quite a bit of difference there. Not only that, but the wheels on the Pulsar are bigger. It's a 3576. It's a 3076. The Garrett is only a 3071. So not to mention at the moment, it's got this exhaust leak. So basically what I'm getting at is that the back-to-back data probably wouldn't have been really a fair comparison anyway. There's too much other stuff changing and going on while we do this. So it is what it is. We know it made that 425-ish at the wheels with the Haltech, and we know what boost it made that on our dyno. So we'll just go off that as a before, and we'll see what we can do on the Pulsar. Plan is to hopefully get this thing to 500 wheel horsepower. Let's make it happen. At this stage, I'm less worried about getting the work done to the car as I am about getting the dyno back and making sure that the car's actually tuned. That's what worries me the most at this stage. But we're going to send it anyway. Fingers crossed it works out for us in the end. So let's start pulling this thing apart.
To want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Yeah, we ran out of patience. Boil up with the cold hard hatred. I can feel the vibration. Feet in the streets, it's a new sensation. I wanna break faces on the pavement. I wanna make greatness look complacent. Adrenaline awakened, I can taste it. We can make an impact, grab and then take it. Like a disease, bring them to their knees. They for their disease. Just like a weed, spread into the streets. It's time to make them bleed. 'Cause we just want retribution. Let's go light up the darkness. Make true of an empty promise. Flip gods into weak and harmless. Take to the streets and turn them to a mosh pit. 'Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.
Righto guys, cracking along here. It's incredible seeing now just how much damage that fire at Matsuri actually did. Pretty crazy. Ideally, probably shouldn't have been still driving the car afterwards, but hey, you know, we put in all that work and gone that far to get there, so we're already there. But yeah, quite a bit of damage from this fire, and as well from the fire extinguisher. I talked to you guys about it when it happened, about how important it is when you use a powdered fire extinguisher to actually get rid of it as quickly as possible and do whatever you can to try and get rid of it, because that stuff just etches everything metal. And you can really see, like on the side of the head, what it's done, the corrosion, the manifold, the block there. So yeah, it's going to be pretty wild. The manifold's coming off. We've got a new gasket to go on it, try and fix that exhaust leak. You can see sort of where that exhaust leak was happening, and that bottom bolt on that first runner is not tight even a little bit. It also looks like it's an absolute pain to try and get at. Doesn't look like that's going to be much fun at all. So not looking forward to that, but manifold's got to come off. So when the manifold's off, we'll try to clean up the block as best we can. We'll try to clean up that head as best we can and try and seal them up again. The manifold, when I unwrap it, I'll probably hit it with some ceramic paint and try and bake it and try and, you know, tidy it up a bit as well. Get it all nice. These are our two turbos, so as you can see, we've got the Garrett.
The difference in the size of those wheels.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to get at. So you've got the Pulsar versus the Garrett, and as you can see, the physical size is almost identical. You know, the Pulsar is basically just a copy of a Garrett GT30. Like I said, this is 3771, that's a 3076, but the difference in the wheels is huge, and that's where the biggest difference is going to be. So we should be able to, hopefully, like we always talked about, we've been talking about from the start, we should have a very similar behavior as this turbo, in the way that it's going to be nice and punchy and responsive. The exhaust side is exactly the same as far as I know, just the GDX Gen 2's got a more efficient exhaust wheel on it as well. And yeah, but the Gen 2's got a more efficient and bigger compressor wheel. So, you know, we should be able to have, yeah, this car should behave very much the same in the way it's going to be really nice and punchy and responsive, but with this bit extra turbo, we should be able to make enough to get us to 500 wheel horsepower. So, yeah. So not only that, but we're also putting 1650s in this thing, new injectors. So once again, nothing wrong with the Sonic 1000s that are in this car, and we do use them quite a bit, but like I talked about when we did the Motec install and everything. But like we talked about when we did the install and after Matsuri and stuff, is that I can't get any really good, genuine injector data for these injectors. So without sending them away to get properly tested and get data back from that, there's no populated or pre-populated data in the Motec software for us to use them. So you can tell by the fuel map and the shape that came out of it that they're not right. The data that I've tried to use isn't right, and I can't get the correct data for them. So we've just ended up just going for some new stainless Bosch 1650s. There's already populated injector data in the Motec software for them. They're a really nice injector. So that's another thing that's happening, is we'll be changing, which means I've got to change from the US car plugs back to the Bosch EV1 style plugs. But anyway, you get that on the big jobs. So you can see in here, the damage to this wiring from the fire, which I'll have to organise and fix, and that was part of the Mac valve wiring as well, which comes out there, which runs in the same area. You can see where that's damaged. You can see where the sleeving has done its job, and the wires are actually pretty well fine. It'll be interesting to have a really good look at that when it comes out, but that is why you'll use a good quality wire like Tefzel when you do your automotive wiring harness, because it saves you a lot of heartache and headache. But this line from the Mac valve to the wastegate, really a bit hard with where that torch is at the moment, but it copped it too. And I have very high doubts that it was actually sealing properly, which would have been our pretty high boost on the day, which we just tuned around anyway. But yeah, this thing was basically running as much boost on the day as the exhaust side would flow because of that. So again, all of this is changing with the new setup, and you know, you go through, well, what was the cause? We had too much oil in it. It was up to the full line, which I was then instructed by Brad that he never does because it blows too much oil out. Well, that's problem number one, blowing too much oil out into the catch can. Problem number two, catch can fills up, breather spurts oil everywhere. So oil's spurting everywhere, that's number two problem. Number three problem, oil gets on your exhaust wrap, which is really, really hot because the exhaust side is very, very hot because the timing's too retarded, which is problem number five. And then obviously your fire burns through your wiring and your hose to your Mac valves and stuff because they're rubber and stuff. So that's problem number six. So problem number one, too much oil coming out of the engine. Well, our solution for that is to put some boost stock splash guards on the cam plates, which are on the way. Brad sent them down. So that's how we're going to try and combat problem number one. Problem number two, firing oil out the breather. Well, the way we're going to fix that is, like I talked about in those videos, change the breathing setup, make it so that it vents back into the intake, and put another oil air separator in it in line with the intake and make it breathe and do all that. So problem number three, remove all of the exhaust heat wrap. All of that's going. I'm not a big fan of it. It's all going in the bin. Problem number four, I think problem number four was the fact that it was too retarded, but obviously more time on the dyno getting the tune right and better, and obviously the timing at idle is going to get fixed with the new IACV so that it doesn't get real hot at idle. So that's how we're going to combat that problem. And then the last problem is all of these lines, all the wiring's going to get rerouted. All of these lines are going to be rerouted, and they are now going to actually get made out of braid. All of the lines for the Mac valve and the boost control are all now going to be out of stainless braid instead of rubber. We're going to remake all of the turbo feed and return and the water as well. All those lines are going to get all remade as well. So pretty much apart from the manifold, full new hotside. And each of those problems is going to get combated on its own. So, you know, hopefully by the time we're done doing all this upgrading, this thing should be rock solid. But anyway, we'll keep on keeping on. And tomorrow morning I'll get this thing jacked up, we'll get the dump pipe off, get the manifold off, and then we'll start on the cleaning up and then the reassembly process with our shiny G turbo. How good. All right guys, back here again, cracking along. Didn't get off the computer to start turning spatters until after 2 o'clock, so another one of those freaking days. Got his front bumper off. They've just obviously been undoing the bulbs out of the indicators in the bumper, which I broke one last time, I'm pretty sure, and there's no way I could get that one out again without breaking the bulb holder. So I don't know why people don't just put plugs in them, but anyway,
It says it's just two wires, just put a freaking plug in it.
that's what I'm gonna do. So I cut it, just put a plug in it.
Yeah, but why didn't they do it? It'd take like 10 minutes.
Drifters, it's freaking drifters. And anyway, I get underneath to get the dump pipe off, and look at this. This exhaust is absolutely shocking. Got one hanger back there on one side. So anyway, I'm gonna have to fix that now. I'm gonna have to put another hanger on it. It can't just be... I'm surprised that this manifold has lasted as long as it had with that much friggin' exhaust just hanging off the back of the turbo. That's wild. Anyway, not an ideal situation with the car on the ground, but obviously we don't have a hoist that I can put it on. So I'm gonna have to try and fix that on the ground, which I'm not looking forward to. But anyway, freaking drifters. Brad's lucky he's a bloody good bloke, I tell you that. Anyway, bumps out. Now we'll get out the manifold, Then we can get out all of these lines and get all this cleaned up for starters. And look where we're going to start from. So this dump, I'll just cut it in this part where it comes up, starts to go up the firewall a bit. We'll cut it there, we'll put a V-band on that, so that will go back in the car as it is. And this little section dump will actually be a lot easier just to remove, because where that is, if you just turn the passenger side front wheel full lock to the right, you can easily get at the V-band there, and then there'll be a V-band at the turbo end as well, so that whole dump pipe will come in and out super easily. We'll get rid of this crappy, these stainless braid flexies. They're not the best, they do collapse, they're a pain, so I've got a good flexi joint to put in the new dump pipe, and it'll be happy days. We'll also move his oxygen sensor downstream a bit where it's not going to be so affected by heat and pressure, so we get a bit more accurate reading there too. So we'll get under that anyway. But first things first, get the manifold and turbo on there. Righto guys, manifold's off. Very unfun job, especially the way this manifold is made. Things like this don't help. So if you are going to do this sort of thing, guys, which I don't recommend because it's basically just a fire hazard, but definitely cut your stainless steel tires all the way back. You can buy guns to terminate them, because this cuts you very bad. We were communications riggers for years, and we used to use this stuff for the bird proofing on feeders and tails for antennas and stuff on towers, and people would not cut them off, and we ended up with a lot of stitches because of that. Yeah, we've got scars and stitches all over us from people not cutting these back properly, to the point where we used to just kick people off our crew.
From there,
yeah,
all the way down through there. That was a stainless tire.
Yeah, be careful with these. Don't leave them like that. Brad. Talking to you, Brad. But yeah, this manifold, really, yeah, not a very good design as far as working on it, but you can definitely see where our exhaust leak was. This gasket's not a multi-layer steel, it's like a perforated one, and that was just blown out and was leaking out of there. So a new gasket should have that sorted and it should be fine. With that out of the way though, you can see all of the damage that the fire extinguisher has done. So this is what I was talking about. Corrosive as hell, absolutely destroying this. So not that I was counting on it, but this engine mount was loose as well. Fair few things that were loose. This thing was really due for like a bolt check, a big once over. Which I'm sure it would have got before competition day anyway, but I'll give it one while we've got it happening. I'll go over everything before Brad picks it up. But anyway, yeah, you can see how badly this is corroding, all the damage that it's done. So we'll try and give this as much of a cleanup as we can, and I'll just try and mask the head off a bit and try and give the block and stuff just a bit of a spray coat of paint, just to try and seal it back up and get it back to being, hopefully not doing any more damage, basically is what I'm getting at. Try and stop it from continuing to do damage. But you can see that adjustable arm that got the fire extinguisher, you can see how corroded all down there is. So yeah, like I was saying guys, it's imperative if you're going to use a powder extinguisher in your car, you got to get it washed off and cleaned out as quick as possible. It is fairly lucky, I suppose, that we're pulling this hot side all apart at this point. So all of this is going to get sorted out anyway, but you wouldn't want to leave that at this point and continue to use the car for another 12 months sort of thing. Who knows what it would look like after that. So CO2 fire extinguisher is the best thing to carry in your car. If you want a fire extinguisher for your car, get a CO2. Obviously powder's the next best, but as you can see, powder does a lot of damage. So just be careful with that. I'm hoping that we've got a new set of studs somewhere, because a lot of these studs were pretty bad too. But anyway, I'll have a look at what we've got in stock. I wasn't counting on replacing the studs and stuff, so I'll just see what we've got here. But anyway, yeah, bit more work than was anticipated. So it's going to be, I think, a lot of very late nights to get this thing hopefully sorted and ready for Brad to pick up to get back to Yeppoon. So even more stuff out of the way, you can see even clearer all the damage that's going on here. But this is what I really wanted to show you with those lines out of the way. So this Tefcell wire, even though it's been on fire and the sheath is a bit crispy, there is still no exposed copper. The sheath, or yeah, no, that's still sheath. So there's no actual exposed copper, and this is the importance of using good quality wiring. So the sheath, I think in the last clip I said it was flame proof. It's not actually flame proof. The braided sheathing, it's a flame retardant. It's designed to slow down burning. or not burn super fast, but obviously it is still going to burn and singe and melt. That is what it does, but it's done its job, and then the wire has done its job, and the MAC valve was still working fine. Obviously, the MAC valve working wasn't actually doing anything with the state of this boost line, but the fact is that the wiring wasn't shorting and it was actually working. So there's a good example of that. But anyway, and you know, looking at that damage, even you look at the turbo housing, this was all covered in powder. And then you can see down here what that powder's done, plus obviously old oil and stuff, but it's not looking good. The rear housing as well, you can see the damage that was sort of done, and the core is corrosion and that sort of thing. You know, you can see here there is a fair bit happening as far as the corrosion. And this is after, at the track, when we got back to the pits, I did my best with just the bottled water that the boys had to try and wash down and get off as much of the powder as I possibly could just with bottled water. It was really, really hard. Obviously at Matsuri in the pits there's no pressure washer or anything like that. You know, there's nothing like that we can really use, but I did try my best to try and get a lot of the powder off because I was aware of this, as I stated in the video when that happened. So yes, bit of a process, did try, but anyway, it is what it is. Can only do what we did with what we had. Managed to, you know, all of this stuff I washed, which this has come out not too bad. Along the top of the head's not as bad as it could have been, because I managed to wash as much as possible off there. So I just tried to do what I could to just get as much off, but you know, pretty hard when it's underneath all the manifold and everything like that. So it could have been a lot worse, is basically what I'm getting at. Still better than the car burning down, but even then we did minimize the extinguisher damage as much as possible as well. But anyway, what do? It is what it is. That's cars. We got all the nasty off. Disgusting. You see all the corrosion it's caused on this manifold from being wrapped up and holding in moisture. Pretty gross, but anyway, should clean up with a wire brush and lick of paint and a bake, and should be much better than it was. So it's annoying, like that stud came out of the head instead of the nut undoing, and because of the runner design, I literally can't get the stud out. I'm gonna have to hold the back side to get the nut off, or cut it, so that I can get it out. And quite a few of the runners are like that. The runners come straight over the bolt holes, which is just, makes it so hard to work with, such a pain. But anyway. Alright, so I did just find this stud kit that we do have in stock. It looks like they're going to be the right size, so give them a crack. Hopefully that will work, and that'll be awesome because they're actually 12-point nuts. So 12-point nuts are a huge advantage, especially when the manifold's designed like this, and it's really hard to get tools in to those places, because at the moment with your 6-point nuts everything's a 14 mil, and these 12-point nuts are probably going to be around a 10 or 11, and as you can imagine, a lot smaller spanner, 10 or 11 mil, to get into those places, which makes it much easier pardon me, to work around. So anyway, first thing to get swapped out and changed is this little fitting here, which is the old barb fitting for the turbo drain. So that is getting replaced with a fitting that goes directly to AN10, because our new turbo drain is going to be made out of hardline, 3/8 hardline. So there's no risk of any burning, melting, wearing, nothing like that. Or kinking, especially as well. You've got to be careful of that with turbo returns, is kinking. So there's going to be no risk of that with the new turbo return line, because it's going to be hardline. So get that out and go to our big box of bloody goodies over here. Yeehaw. Now I did think about literally laying this all out on the floor so that I could go through every single thing that's in here for you and exactly what's going to happen with it, but then I just end up repeating myself while I go through it as it goes in the car. So anyway, I'll find this fitting we're looking for. Like always, just about the last freaking fitting that's in the box, but this is what is replacing that one that just came out of that block. So these are a 3/4 BSP. This is a 3/4 straight to a AN10. So the reason I'm putting this on now is so that I can put one of those little red caps on it, so that when so that I can go at this block with the wire brush and the drill. One of these. So that I'm gonna have to rely on taping up the barb. So it can go on, bit of thread seal, we'll clean up the surface so that that actually seals, and a bit of thread seal on the fitting, and it can go on the block, and that'll be happy days. Righto guys, just like that, and now it's sealed up for when I do my wash and my drill and my brake clean, and then we paint it, and it's gonna get a bit of a coat of paint, but that's not to worry. So it probably should have been a BSPT, a tapered fitting, not a parallel one. So it was a bit tight going in, but it went in enough that I'm happy enough with it, and it's going to be all right. It's not under pressure or anything, so it'll be fine. So I put this old feed back on just to seal that oil feed because I can't find any -4 of these caps. We should have some around here somewhere, but I can't find them. So that'll do for now, and it'll be enough just to clean this up and paint it up. Anyway, basically from here, the next step is that we really need to get the gurney and degrease and clean this all up, clean all this crap out. Fortunately at the moment we don't actually have the pressure washer here, it's at home, so I need to bring it back. So I was thinking about coming back tonight after dinner and doing a bit of a night shift, but there's no way I'm going to be crawling around. The other thing I've got to do is obviously tie the exhaust up because it's just hanging off the one hanger at the back, which is doing nothing. It's pretty much on the ground. So I just sort of need to tie the exhaust up so I can put this back on the ground so I can wheel it forward a bit so I can give it a good clean out with the gurney and clean it up a bit, and there's no way I'm doing that tonight in the cold. So I think I'll probably leave that, attack this back in the morning, in the sunshine, in the daytime, and tomorrow night we'll probably do a night shift, which will hopefully by that point be starting to get everything back together, which I'll probably be able to get a bit more done during the night anyway. So that's what we're going to do. That'll probably do this for an episode. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you're looking forward to the next one. We'll get this thing back to its former glory and then some with all of this fun stuff, which I'll explain as it goes onto the car. A lot of it's fun. If you're a nerd like me and like lots of data, you'll probably really like it. But anyway, I'm looking forward to it. See you on the next one, guys. Peace out. See you, bye.